Hey guys, in this month's top 5, I'm going to be sharing with you my favorite true crime books. So yeah, true crime is starting to turn into a genre of its very own. True crime is a very fascinating genre for starters. If you don't know, true crime, anything, whether it's movies, television, books, whatever, if it says it's true crime, it's what it literally means. It's based off of something real, a true crime where people have been murdered or whatever, you know, a true real crime that happened. So yeah, I managed to find 5 books that I've read that I think could be considered true crime, hopefully. For some reason, I thought I had read more. I was kind of looking through my Goodreads and I was like, I can swear I've read more true crime type books, but when I started looking through Goodreads, I was like, no, I don't think I have read as much as I thought I have. So I did. I managed to find 5, and yeah, hopefully you guys would consider these true crime, because I consider them true crime. At number 5 is See What I Have Done by Sarah Schmidt, and this is a true crime story based off of the Lizzie Borden story. Everybody loves Lizzie Borden, that crazy young woman. Lizzie Borden, what she did, maybe not, who knows, what she did, it's theorized that she murdered her father and her stepmother using an axe, but the thing is, she was found not guilty. I find that hard to believe, you guys. I don't know about you. I really find it hard to believe that she was innocent of that crime. But yeah, the story of Lizzie Borden for decades, I think, has just always inspired lots of historical fiction and nonfiction, you know, speculating what happened that day. And yeah, Lizzie Borden's story, it takes place in a small Massachusetts town in America during the late 1800s. And yeah, Lizzie Borden, I think she, God, how old is she? I think she might be in her early 20s. Is she in her early 20s, mid-20s, something like that? I can't quite remember her age. But yeah, this book by Sarah Schmidt, See What I Have Done, right? Yeah, See What I Have Done. This book by Sarah Schmidt, I have read a couple other historical fiction works with Lizzie Borden, but I think out of all the ones I've read, this one is my favorite. I feel like this one by Sarah Schmidt is maybe the best researched, poses some of the best theories and possibilities, and yeah, you get multiple points of view with this book. You have Lizzie's point of view, you have her sister's point of view, that the maid, her point of view, and then, yeah, another more fictionalized point of view from a male character that may or may not have had something to do with the murders as well. So if you love the story of Lizzie Borden and you're fascinated with what went down and you're interested in an author's historical fiction take on what could have happened, I definitely recommend See What I Have Done by Sarah Schmidt. Very well done, I think. At number 4, In Cold Blood by Truman Capote. Of course, this book had to make the list. And yeah, this is my only book on this list that is non-fiction. And the great thing about what Truman Capote did with In Cold Blood, what I just really loved, is that even though it is non-fiction, it is not difficult to get into whatsoever. He retells this story. I'll get into the synopsis in a minute. He retells this story in such a way that's very compelling and intriguing, and you're just fully immersed and engaged, and you feel like you're reading a work of fiction. You know, you feel like you're reading a work of fiction, and it's like, this is just too much, you know, this is too much, this can't be a true story, but it is, just all done in a non-fiction way. So yeah, what is In Cold Blood about? I first read it back when I was in college, and I freaking loved it. I was just like, wow, I've never heard of this before. In Cold Blood, it takes place in 1959, and it follows this really gruesome, graphic murder of the Clutter family. The Clutters, they are living in Kansas, a small town in Kansas, and yeah, for some reason they wind up murdered. The Clutter family winds up murdered gruesomely and graphically by two men who like killed them with shotguns and whatnot. And yeah, that's what In Cold Blood is all about. You get to know about the Clutter family, you get through the murders, and yeah, the book really spends a lot of time with the two murderers more than anything, and you really get kind of deep down into kind of their psychological mentality and whatnot. Yeah, I've not read In Cold Blood in a really, really long time, and I've kind of been wanting to reread it again because it was just so good, you guys. I definitely recommend it, especially if you're looking for something that's more in the non-fiction realm. Like I said, my whole list here, besides this, is going to be historical fiction. At number 3 is Burial Rites by Hannah Kent. This takes place in Iceland. You don't get to read about Iceland very much, you guys. This takes place in Iceland in 1829, following a woman named Agnes. And this whole book, she's essentially awaiting her execution. She's already had her trial. She's being charged for murder. She's going to be killed. And in the meantime, while she's waiting for this execution to happen, she has to go live with this family out on their isolated farm. And yeah, this whole novel is about her stay at this isolated farm with this family and coming to know the family and the family coming to know her. And yeah, the whole novel is kind of a thing of, well, is she innocent? Is she guilty of the crime that they're saying that she did? Because yeah, what she's being accused of is that that she murdered her former employer. So yeah, did she murder him? Did she not? Yeah, there's other people that are involved in this whole thing as well. That is part of the murder. So it is. This story, Burial Rites, it's so good, you guys. It's very atmospheric. Like I said, you're in Iceland. It's very atmospheric. It just feels really dank and dark and gloomy, and it just really kind of enhances that feeling that even Agnes is feeling, you know, as she's awaiting her trial and her execution and whatnot, and just this isolation of the farm. A very, very atmospheric novel where you really get to explore the headspace of a character like Agnes and get to understand why she did what she did and whatnot. So yeah, I definitely recommend Burial Rites, you guys. At number 2, I have Child 44 by Tom Rob Smith. And this book might be kind of straddling the true crime genre a wee bit. The reason I'm including Child 44 in this list, even though the whole book is fictional, and it's pretty much all made up for the most part, Tom Rob Smith, the events going on in this book, he has based it on a true event, a real life murderer. Even though his book takes place in the 1950s, but yeah, the inspiration that he's drawing from takes place more, like those murders happened more like in the 1970s, I want to say, something like that. So there's like a couple decades difference, but yeah, he's situating his inspiration a little further back in time, I guess, if that makes sense. So yeah, Child 44, it's not really totally based on something. It's really more inspired by a true event, if that makes sense. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. But yeah, Child 44, if you don't know what it's about, it takes place in Soviet Russia in, I believe, the 1950s, and it's following a man who works with the police force, and he's trying to unravel this series of murders that involves all young, very young children. All these children are being found with dirt stuffed in their mouths and like a piece of string tied around their foot, and yeah, like their insides are kind of like taked out as well. It's very, very graphic and gruesome what's happening to these children, and it just keeps happening. And yeah, the big plot of this whole narrative is, like I said, it takes place in 1950s Russia, and this is kind of during a time period when it's like the government is very much all about, oh, there is no crime in Russia. We don't have murder. We don't have serial killers. We're above that. We are perfect. So yeah, it's a big thing of that mentality that this serial killer that is out there, no one believes the officer who is going after this serial killer, essentially. And it's up to him to be like, hey, I'm going to prove there is a serial killer out there. So, I freaking love Child 44. It's absolutely amazing and gripping, and yeah, just some really brutal graphic moments that you're like, oh, I wish I could cover my eyes while I'm reading this. And yeah, like I said, it's more inspired by a serial killer that happened in Russia, rather than actually being about the serial killer in question. I do recommend, if you want to know more about Tom Rob Smith's inspiration for this novel, I definitely recommend you know, doing like a Google search and learning more about it and learning more about the serial killer, because it's very, very fascinating. At number 1, you guys, is Elias Grace by Margaret Atwood. This book takes place in Canada in the 1840s, and it follows a young woman named Grace, who is being put on trial and being blamed for the murder of her employer and his house servant, house mistress, something like that. And this book, you guys, Elias Grace, is just so captivating. And you're being told this story through an unreliable narrator. Grace is your narrator, and that makes things tricky. You know, can you rely on her? What is truth and what is fiction in what she is retelling you? Because, yeah, she's telling you her story, so she's choosing to tell you what she wants you to know and omitting other things, essentially. So you never quite know if Grace is telling the truth, and yeah, is she innocent? Is she guilty? That's the fascination with this book. And yeah, you don't really get an answer, you know, which is something else I loved. You don't ever really get an answer. It's really up to you, the reader, to kind of form an opinion about what is truth and what's reality. You know, what is Grace kind of getting at? Yeah, Elias Grace, just seriously, Margaret Atwood, just at her finest. I feel like just the narrative is so great. Her way with words and language, seriously, just her words and language in this, just you really can just, it feels like a real person. You know, you feel like this is a real person telling you this story in the moment. And yeah, just the story of Grace, it's just one of those little known stories of history, very much like Burial Rites. Burial Rites and Elias Grace, seriously, if you love either or of those books, I think you'll love the other. So yeah, Elias Grace at number 1, you guys. There was no question about that. When I was making this list, I was like, there's no question, it's going to be number 1. So you guys, that is it for my top 5 true crime books. In the comments below, what books have you guys read that are based off of true crime? Do you like my choices? Do you not like my choices? What books have you guys read? Just let me know your thoughts down below. So that's it for this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you like this video, you may like these other videos. Bye guys.